In this exercise, we're going to take a look at creating something similar to what you see up on the screen. Basically, it's a wheel with some details on it. Ours isn't going to be quite that detailed. I just got carried away and just had a little fun with it, which I encourage everyone to do when you're creating this, because the more you tinker with it, the better you're going to be at modeling. Anyhow, the way we're going to model this is we're going to start off with actually just a simple revolve feature and this basic profile sketch that you see. It's going to revolve around this vertical center line, 360 degrees. You see, it kind of looks like an airplane almost, this profile. That's what we're going to draw. And when we draw, we're going to employ a couple different techniques. For example, mirroring. We're going to mirror across this horizontal center line, thus only having to create 1/4 of this section. Let's begin. Start off with a new part file. Select the front plane, start a sketch. Find the center line tool, and then move your pointer over the origin, and when you get the inference line like this, and you're a good inch or two up above it, click and connect it to the origin. Click again, drag it to the left about 4 inches. Click. And after you click, you could hit escape. Now, take the line tool, not center line. Make sure it's just the line tool. Remember, there's several tools. There's 3 tools in here. You just want line this time around. Move your pointer just left of the vertical center line. Take a look where my pointer is. That's about where you want to be. Click. Drag up a vertical line approximately an inch. So like 0.94 I'm reading right now, and I'm at 90 degrees. That's good. Click. Drag across a very short little line horizontal. And you want it less than a ½ inch. So like 0.3, 0.4 is very good. Click. Drag down at a slight angle. Again, look at what I'm drawing. And I'm not going to touch the horizontal center line. I'm going to just hover above it a little bit. And I have a slight angle on here. Click. Drag across approximately an inch. Make sure it's horizontal. Click. And drag up a line approximately an inch. Click. Drag across a very short little line that's eventually just going to be 0.25, so less than a ½ inch definitely. Click. And finally, draw vertically down and connect to the horizontal center line. Click again. Hit escape on your keyboard to get out of the line tool. Now I want to show you how to mirror. Now if you worked on the lab from last week, the lab E1B, if you watched my video afterwards, you would see I give you a preview of how to mirror. So here we go again. This is where I'm going to show that to you officially. What you want to do is you want to select what you want to mirror first. Well, actually, let's go first to the Mirror Entities tool and see what happens. Solidworks lets you pre-select or post-select your options, and it's a little different whichever way you go. Sometimes it might be a little easier, sometimes not. But anyhow, you can see on the left, what it's looking for is in blue. It's looking for the entities to mirror. So the entities are these little line geometry, these object lines, which are solid. You could select one each individually, or you could click up here and drag across to create a window. And my preview didn't really work very well there. I'm not sure why, but it still selected everything inside of it. So my apologies on the preview. Didn't usually see like a little envelope that's gets drawn around there. Otherwise, just select each individual line. Now, go click on Mirror About, this little box to turn it blue, and we want to mirror it about this horizontal center line. So click on that, and you should see a preview in yellow that it's mirroring it across. Hit the green check. That's just one method. Now, if you go back and you watch Exercise 1, Lab 1B, they show you a different method that's using the same tool, but just the selections are a little different. So with that being said, now we're ready to start adding dimensions to this. So go to the Smart Dimension tool in the upper left, click on it, select this vertical line, and then select the vertical center line. Exercise 2, Solidworks. Exercise 1, we're going to also share the screen, so when you're backing up on something that you don't need to. If you type stop, put it in the keyboard of the going to type and up the System Options tab. Options just yet. I'm in the feel free. Notice the part right there. You have a blend. Quick fast keys or get animation. Metric. There we go. Hit the spacebar again. Go to front. Hit the spacebar again. Go to top. I think you. To turn it blue, and we want to mirror it about this horizontal center. That's line, and then select the vertical center line. Oops. Let's go to the Smart Dimension tool in the upper left. Click on it. Select this vertical line, and then select the vertical center line. Oops. Let me make sure I selected that. There we go. Let's try it again. Now you'll notice if you drop the dimension to the left, it just gives you what's considered a radius eventually, because this is going to be revolved 360 degrees. But SOLIDWORKS allows you to just move it to the right of the center line, or the opposite side of the center line, and it will give you what will eventually be a diameter. Look at that. It's dimensioning to nothing right now. So this is a really nice tool if you know that it's going to be a diameter later. So go ahead and just drop it to the right over here of that center line. That only works, by the way, if you're dimensioning to a center line. If it's an object line, you won't get that option. All right, we want to go ahead and put 0.75. Hit enter. Now, let's dimension this little line up here. Click on it. Now, be careful not to click on that midpoint. It almost looked like I accidentally selected that, but I didn't get it. Now, not to click enter. Now, let's dimension this little line up here. Click on it. Now, be careful not to click on that midpoint. It almost looked like I accidentally selected that, but I didn't get it. Now, SOLIDWORKS employs this technology that keeps the last selection selected. And you just have to hit the escape key one time. And now you should just get the width of that line and drag it up here, and somewhere centered here, click to drop it. Type in 0.4. Now, go ahead and click on this angled line. Stay away from the ends or the point in the center. Click, and then click on this line. And this is the first time we're going to dimension an angle. So get your pointer in here, where mine is, click, and make that 18. This is 18 degrees. Now click on this line, and this one right here, and drag that way out here, click to drop it. That's going to be 0.25. Go ahead and dimension this line up here. This will be 0.25 as well. And click on this line on the far left to the vertical center line. And remember, drag to the right of the center line. Click and make that 5. And click on this line on the far left to the vertical center line. And remember, drag to the right of the center line. Click and make that 5. Now click on this line, and if it's one continuous line that's highlighting orange, you're good. If it's separate lines, you may have had a little break in there, so that might be an issue, or just click on the two top and bottom lines. But I'm going to click right here, drag this over here. Now notice again, it has that function where it maintains the last selection, which we don't want. Hit escape, and now it should just give you the vertical height. Click over here, make that 2 inches. The last dimension is this one right here. Click on this point, and it's very rare that I actually select a point and then click on this vertical center line, drag it to the right, make that 2. Now go ahead and line these dimensions up. As I said in exercise 1, it's a good practice because later on when you make a drawing, you could call these up and it will bring them up exactly how you left them, or most of the time just how you left them. You could call these 1. It's a good practice because later on when you make a drawing, you could call these up and it will bring them up exactly how you left them, or most of the time just how you left them. Now you might also want to call these out as diameters since that's what they are. So here's a way you could do that. You could select them, and then over here on the left you have the diameter symbol, and it automatically puts it in. I'm going to hit escape and select these two, and I could add those both at the same time. Hit the green check. Puts it in. Left, you have the diameter symbol. Here's a way you could do that. You could select them, and then over here on the left, you have the diameter symbol, and it automatically stops them. When these dimensions are very rare, hit escape, and now it should just give you the vertical height. Click over here, make that 2 inches. The last dimension is this one right here. Click on this point, and it's very rare that I actually select a point and then click on this vertical center line, drag it to the right, make that 2. Now go ahead and line these dimensions up. As I said in exercise 1, it's a good practice because later on when you make a drawing, you could call these up and it will bring them up exactly how you left them, or most of the time just how you left them. Now you might also want to call these out as diameters since that's what they are. So here's a way you could do that. You could select them, and then over here on the left you have the diameter symbol, and it automatically puts it in. I'm going to hit escape and select these two, and I could add those both at the same time. Hit the green check mark. All right, we're ready now to revolve this. Now before we revolve it, let's think about what we want to revolve it around. Note we have 2 center lines. Solidworks, if it only detects one center line, will automatically revolve around it. But if you have multiple center lines, it doesn't know which one, and it forces you to select it. So we know we're going to revolve around this vertical center line, so select it. And you could pre-select it. You could also post-select it. Either way is fine. Let's go to Features and find Revolve Boss Base. And it should automatically give you a preview. Go ahead and hit the green check. And now we have our wheel. Go ahead and hit the F key on your keyboard, and it will zoom to fit. Now, this is as far as the manual goes, but again, I really strongly recommend that you go ahead and you add some features to this. And I'm going to try and dress it up like you saw, where it looked almost like a turbine or a cast wheel. So to add those, if you like, continue to watch. And let's go to the fillet tool. So let's begin. First of all, let's go to the fillet tool. Find fillet. And we've tinkered with the fillet tool in the last exercise. Go ahead and make sure it's set to 0.1, full preview. And there's a couple things you could do here. Like, for example, in SolidWorks, you could select individual edges to add fillets. So go ahead and select those 2 edges. You could also, you could also select the face. If you rotate with your middle mouse button, push it down, or basically your wheel, let's rotate, look at the other side. Instead of selecting the 2 edges, you could select a face, and those edges are automatically filleted. Go ahead and rotate it back. Now, let's go ahead and add a fillet here on that face, and a fillet here. Hit the green check mark. Select a face, and those edges are automatically filleted. Go ahead and rotate it back. Now, let's go ahead and add fillet here on that face and a fillet here. Hit the green check mark. Let's add a different sized radius. Go to fillet and now set the radius to 0.5 and select this edge here and use the X-ray capabilities to find that edge underneath it and click on that so we don't have to save radius. Go to fillet and now set the radius to 0.5 and select this edge here and use the X-ray capabilities to find that edge underneath it and click on that so we don't have to rotate again. Hit the green check. Now we're going to put in some blades or ribs in here. So select this face, and I'm going to show you how to use the rib tool doing this. Start a sketch and hit your space bar and go to the top view orientation. Take the line tool and from this quadrant right about here, so count this face, and I'm going to show you how to use the rib tool doing this. Start a sketch and hit your space bar and go to the top view orientation. Take the line tool and from this quadrant right about here, so count these little edges, 1, 2, 3, 4, right there, that's pretty good. Click and then connect to this one right here and hit escape. Now if you rotate, you'll see you're floating on top. So basically we're sketching on this plane. When you're using the rib tool, remember, never draw the profile on the surface where the rib ends. Technically, you're starting it at the very top, and that's where Solidworks thinks of it as beginning. It could go to the side, too, like 90 degrees, but for the most part, that's where it should be. Now go to Features. Ends. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right there, that's pretty good. Click, and then connect to this one right here and hit Escape. Now, if you rotate, you'll see you're floating on top. So basically, we're sketching on this plane. When you're using the rib tool, remember, never draw the profile on the surface where the rib ends. Technically, you're starting it at the very top, and that's where Solidworks thinks of it as beginning. It could go to the side, too, like 90 degrees, but for the most part, that's where it should be. Now go to Features, Rib, and by default, it does go to the right. Let's go, instead of parallel to sketch, go normal to sketch, and it will flip for us. Make sure it's set to 0.1. You can add draft. Go ahead and click on this little tool right here, and this will add draft, and bump it up to approximately 7 degrees. And hit the green check. Now, if we want, we could try and mirror this. Now, sometimes the mirroring is unusual with ribs because it's based off of different surfaces and it goes up to next. But let's give it a try. Click on it, and you could actually mirror features. Now, earlier in this lesson, we learned how to mirror sketches. Inside of a sketch, it requires a center line to mirror across. Well, when we're in the 3D world of SolidWorks, which is where we're at right now, to mirror a feature, an actual 3D feature, you need a plane or a flat surface. So with that selected, go to the mirror tool, and we have a perfect plane. If I hit the little arrow here, and you could go ahead and select the top plane, and you'll see a preview of it being mirrored. Let's go ahead and cross our fingers and hit the green check. And there we have it. It mirrored it across. Now we're going to pattern that. So go ahead and with that selected, hold Control and select the rib as well. So the mirror and the rib are selected. Again, using the Control key, you can select those both from the Feature Manager design tree here. Hit the little arrow under Linear Pattern and find Circular Pattern. Now, what it's looking for here is pattern axis. Notice there's no axis in the center showing. You could go to View, Display, and turn, View, Hide, Show, and turn on temporary axes, and you'd see one. Every cylindrical object has one built into it automatically. But Solidworks lets you do this instead. You can select the cylindrical face of whatever you want to pattern. Now, make sure you have equal spacing selected. 360 degrees, it defaults usually to that. And let's put in 15 instances and hit the Enter key. And now you could see a preview of that pattern. Try not to put too many in. If you put too many, you might crash your system or might just fail to do it. So just be aware. Hit the green check. Any spacing and turn, View, Hide, Show, and turn on temporary axes, and you'd see one. Every cylindrical object has one built into it automatically. But Solidworks lets you do this instead. You can select the cylindrical face of whatever you want to pattern. Now, make sure you have equal spacing selected. 360 degrees, it defaults usually to that. And let's put in 15 instances and hit the Enter key. And now you could see a preview of that pattern. Try not to put too many in. If you put too many, you might crash your system or might just fail to do it. So just be aware. Hit the green check. And so you can see we have these blades fail to do it. So just be aware. Hit the green check. And so you can see we have these blades in there. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and I'm going to show you a neat little trick here. Revolve Cut. Select the front plane again and start a sketch. Hit your space bar and click on the front view orientation, or Control 1 for the fast keys. Go to a view here, hit the view selector here, and let's go with hidden lines visible. Now you can see through it. Select the circle tool, and right on this midpoint on the far left edge, click and drag out a circle, and let's go ahead and maybe make it intersect that fillet right there. Click. Now up here, right about 1/4 of the way to the right, maybe, click and drag out another circle. And then you could go ahead and add one here. And we're just having a little fun here. So if you're not exactly the same dimensions, that's fine. This is kind of a free-form thing. If you want, you can make those 1 inch. This one, we could go ahead and make that 1.2 inches. And we could dimension this one, or we could hit escape and remember, we have the equal option. If you control select both circles on the left, you can make them equal. If you select that, now they both are the same size. All right. Now, if you recall, what we need is a center line to revolve this. So click on the center line tool up there. Go to the origin. When you get the orange dot, click and drag up a vertical center line, and then hit escape. And now we're ready to revolve this. So we go to features. Now, revolve boss space is to add material. Revolve cut is to remove material. So go ahead and select revolve cut. Now, I'm going to go back to shaded with edges. And our preview is not showing up. I had to click on it a second time, the center line, so we can see the preview. Go ahead and hit the green check. And then you should so we can see the preview. Go ahead and hit the green check. And then you should be left with something that looks like this. Feel free to put more fillets on and have a little fun with it. Remember, you could also do a few things. Like, let's say we want to make this look nice for our portfolio. Hit this little television set here, the monitor. Go to perspective. And my perspective is set up rather high. You could go to view, modify, and perspective. Things like, let's say we want to make this look nice for our portfolio. Hit this little television set here, the monitor. Go to perspective. And my perspective is set up rather high. You could go to view, modify, and perspective. And you could like set it to 1. Gives you a greater vanishing point. Okay, so now that we have that, let's go ahead and click somewhere on the model. Go to the beach ball there and go to the whole part. And let's set this to glass. Actually, hit the little arrow to the left of glass. Find thick gloss. And this one looks really neat, the clear, thick glass. hit the green check. Now select this face right here and go to the beach ball. And these are all the fillets, so select the fillets, and let's make those fillets a metal. Hit the little arrow to the left of metal, and you could go with chrome and chrome plate. Hit the green check. Now we could go to SOLIDWORks add-ins. Photo View 360 comes with SOLIDWORks Professional. If you have SOLIDWORks Core, you may not have this option. It's an add-in. So, and then the render tools will activate. You could hit Integrated Preview. And just give it a minute, and it will start to photorealistically render that image and make it look pretty impressive for your second exercise ever using. SOLIDWORks. and a great portfolio piece. A couple of other additions to round the edges and things. Put more fillets in. It's going to look even classier. The longer you let it sit, the better it's going to look. Just don't forget to turn off integrated preview. It does draw a lot of system resources, as we learned before. And that's the exercise 2. Now let's take a look. We have a lab in here, and if we go to the Vertanu 1 webpage, go to Instructional Manuals and the Solidworks Basics, and I'm looking to update this. This is the older manual, so there's going to be some changes coming through soon. And if we go, we could see the lab for this week after this exercise is this bolt. And we're not going to learn how to put the screw on there, or I should say the thread, but just make this basic bolt. And there's 3 ways you could actually put that thread on. I'm not going to go through it in this class, but you could look forward. I believe exercise 13 has how to create a thread. I show you one way in that respect, and there's 2 additional ways. All right, so for this, we could see we have a shaft that's 1.7 inches long, and it's a 1/2 inch diameter. And then there's the head of the bolt, which is 1 inch in diameter, and then it has a dome over it. And so let's take a look at how that would be created. Go to New, Part, and hit OK. Select the front plane, start a sketch. Take your line tool, and basically just draw 1/2 of that bolt. Part and hit OK. Select the front plane, start a sketch. Take your line tool and basically just draw 1/2 of that bolt. So it's about 2 inches in height. So I'm going to go ahead and get that about 2 inches. Double click to end that line. I'm going to click over here. This is about 1/4 inch. Click, drag that up. About 1.7-ish. Click, draw this across. It's going to be about another 0.25-ish dimension, and about 0.1 up. You could also zoom up with your wheel and then hit escape. Now I'm actually going to show you, instead of drawing that all the way to the top and putting a radius on it, which you could do, I'm going to show you another trick. But here I'm going to go ahead and dimension this at 2 inches. And then this one is 1.7, and this is 0.1. And actually, I'm going to delete this one. I don't want that just yet. I'm going to take the line tool and extend from this line, intersect with that line, hit escape. Now to trim that off, there is a trim tool up here. You could go to Trim Entities, and you'll see there's Power Trim or Trim to Closest. Let's just learn Trim to Closest for right now. Click on what you don't want. There it is. Hit Escape. We're going to go through those in the next couple of exercises. But for right now, as you can see here, we have these dimensions. Let's go and draw a center line in and have that come up bottom maybe. You could have it go all the way to the top, I suppose. Either one's fine. Hit Escape. And now when you go to Smart Dimension, you could dimension this to the center line, and it gives you the diameter. So 0.5 As long as you draw it to the right, and over here you could add the diameter symbol. And then from this line, to that center line, it's going to be 1 inch. And again, select the diameter symbol if you like. Again, it's an option. You don't have to do that. And go to Features, Revolve Boss Base. Hit the green check mark. You could go to the chamfer tool, and there's a 0.03 chamfer that goes at the bottom. Select that. We could have put this in as a sketch chamfer, but I'm going to show that to you. That goes at the bottom. Select that. We could have put this in as a sketch chamfer, but I'm going to show that to you in a later exercise. Now, here's the dome feature. This is really neat. Click on the surface. Go to Insert, Features, and you'll find Dome. Set it to 0.2 or use this little thing, and you can see you could actually inflate it. 0.2 is what you want. Hit the green check mark, and now you have your dome. Let's put the slot in it. Go to the front plane, start a sketch, hit your spacebar, and go to the front view orientation. Draw a center line. And now this one we're going to actually use the mirror tool for because we want it to be symmetric on both sides. So change it to the line tool, and right on this edge, click and drag this down and then across, and now we can mirror this. Now here's a little trick. I showed you from left to right when you select a window. It selects what's in the window. If you go from, sorry, that's left to right. If you go from right to left, it selects everything that's touching the window when it comes to the sketch geometry. So now we could go over here to the mirror entities. We have it mirrored. Select the dimension tool, touching the window when it comes to the sketch geometry. So now we could go over here to the mirror entities. We have it mirrored. Select the dimension tool. Dimension this width at 0.1. And the angle, let's look at the actual print, is supposed to be 30 degrees. And then the depth from here to this edge is 0.1. Let's look at the actual print. It's supposed to be 30 degrees. And then the depth from here to this edge is 0.1. Actually, I might be wrong on that. Let's double check. Oh, it's 0.15 from the bottom. So if we just change it to 0.05. We're in good shape. Okay, now we could go to Features and Extruded Cut. Now, that little arrow there is an indicator. It's going to cut everything on the outside, leaving this behind. So flip that. And you want to set it to through all both because it's in the middle. That little arrow there is an indicator. 0.5. We're in good shape. Okay, now we could go to Features and Extruded Cut. Now, that little arrow there is an indicator. It's going to cut everything on the outside, leaving this behind. So flip that. And you want to set it to through all both because it's in the middle, and hit the green check. And now you have your cutout. If you want, I'm going to show you how to put a cosmetic thread in. Select this face, go over here to the beach ball, and hit this little arrow up here, scroll to the very bottom, and go to Pattern. This face, go over. If you want, I'm going to show you how to put a cosmetic thread in. Select this face, go over here to the beach ball, and hit this little arrow up here, scroll to the very bottom, and go to Pattern. You'll find screw thread, and you could add that to this. Actually, let's click on that face, and go to Appearances and select that face from there. Now we could go over there. Pattern, screw thread. Now here you could see it's a very fine thread, but grab this little arrow and scale it up, and it gives you a better preview. Thread. Now here you could see it's a very fine thread, but grab this little arrow and scale it up, and it gives you a better preview. And so that is a cosmetic thread. Now why would you use a cosmetic thread over a regular thread? Because for screws, cosmetic threads are very intensive on resources from the computer. Imagine multiplying a very intensive model thousands of times for all the screws. You don't usually want that. So that's why it's suggested you use a cosmetic thread. There's also another option in here under Insert Annotations, and you have cosmetic thread, and you could specify more info and even a note with that one. This one's just a visual representation of the screw thread. Now, there is a quiz that you need to practice, so I'm going to show you how to do that right now. You can't actually watch this while you take the quiz, but you can practice it ahead of time. In the training guide, you'll see Quiz 1. And you can see it's a 6x3 by 1 inch thick block with a 0.75 high boss with a cut hole in it. Let's go ahead and do that. I would recommend, so it looks just like what's in the picture, select the top plane and start a sketch. And then go to Center Rectangle, and at the origin, since it's symmetric, draw out your rectangle. And we know it's 3 by 6. Now, take your centerline tool and draw a vertical and horizontal centerline. If you remember, this is very similar to Lab 1B. So it's really a lot of review. Over here, go ahead and draw a circle floating out there. Be sure not to touch this line. So go to Features, and if you want to cut it as an engraving, go to Extrude Cut. If you want it embossed or raised, go to Extrude Boss Base. I'll leave it up to you. I'm gonna make it an engraving. So I go to Extrude Cut and set it very, very thin, 0.01. So 10,000ths of an inch cut, and then click off of it. And now you could actually see there's a little engraving there, 0.01. So 10,000ths of an inch cut, and then click off of it. And now you could actually see there's a little engraving there for you. And that, at this point, you would just get it to like an isometric view, similar to this. This is for me to grade it, and then go to File and select Print and find the printer on there. Don't print it to PDF. So like if you do go to print here, make sure you find your printer listed on this. Don't go with PDF or anything like that. And hit print. Turn it in. And that concludes exercise 2. Exercise